It was one of those nights, the kind of night where the rain seemed endless, and the city felt completely lifeless. Streetlights flickered through the heavy storm. The roads were almost empty. Everyone had already rushed home. Everyone, except one man. His name was Ethan, 29 years old, an ordinary office worker. No special talents, no extraordinary life. Just another man trying to survive another difficult day. He had worked late again. His shoulders ached. His phone battery was almost dead. All he wanted was to get home, take a hot shower, and forget this miserable day. Little did he know, tonight, his entire life was about to change. As Ethan crossed the old bridge near Riverside Road, something caught his eye. At first, he thought it was just a pile of trash. But then, it moved. His footsteps slowed. The rain poured harder. Lightning flashed across the sky. For a split second, he saw the figure clearly. An elderly man, lying on the cold pavement. His clothes were soaked with rain and stained with blood. Ethan's heart skipped a beat. He looked around. No cars, no people, no police, only silence, broken by the sound of thunder. His mind raced. What if it's a trap? What if someone attacks me? What if I get blamed? Every instinct told him to walk away. After all, most people would. He even took 2 steps forward. Then he stopped. He looked back. The old man was barely breathing. His fingers trembled. His lips moved, trying to say something. Ethan sighed deeply. Forget it, he whispered to himself. I can't leave him here. He ran back, knelt beside the stranger. The old man's eyes slowly opened. Fear filled them. Not pain. Fear. He grabbed Ethan's sleeve with surprising strength. His voice was barely audible. They're coming. Ethan leaned closer. Who? The old man's lips moved again. They'll find. Before Ethan could ask another question, the man lost consciousness. A cold chill ran down Ethan's spine. He immediately called emergency services. No signal. He checked again. Nothing. The storm had knocked out the network. Without wasting another second, he lifted the stranger onto his shoulders. The old man was heavier than he looked. Rain soaked Ethan's clothes. His muscles screamed in pain, but he refused to stop. After several exhausting minutes, he finally reached his old car. The engine hesitated, then started. He drove faster than he ever had before. Every red light felt like an eternity. Finally, the hospital came into view. Doctors rushed outside with a stretcher. The old man was taken inside immediately. Ethan stood alone in the waiting room. His hands were covered in blood. His clothes were drenched. He couldn't stop shaking. Minutes passed, then an hour. Finally, a nurse approached him. He's alive. Ethan let out a long breath. For the first time that night, he smiled, but that smile disappeared when he noticed someone standing at the far end of the hallway. A man wearing a black coat, watching him, completely still. The stranger's face was hidden beneath a cap. The moment Ethan looked directly at him, the man turned around and disappeared. Ethan frowned. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe he was just imagining things. Then suddenly, a doctor called his name. Mr. Ethan, the patient wants to see you. Inside the room, the old man looked weaker than before. Machines beeped quietly around him. His breathing was slow. He reached into his blanket with trembling hands, pulled out something small, a tiny brass key. Without saying a word, he pressed it into Ethan's palm, then whispered, "Keep it safe." Ethan looked confused. "What is this?" The old man's eyes filled with panic. "Don't trust anyone." Before Ethan could respond, the heart monitor suddenly screamed. Doctors rushed inside. "Move back. Clear the room." Ethan stumbled into the hallway, still holding the tiny brass key tightly in his hand. He had no idea that this small piece of metal had just made him the most hunted man in the city. Ethan stood frozen in the hospital hallway. The tiny brass key felt strangely heavy in his hand. The old man's final words echoed inside his mind. "Don't trust anyone." Seconds later, the doctors pushed him away from the emergency room. The doors slammed shut. The red emergency light switched on. Ethan stared through the small glass window. He wanted answers. Who was the old man? Who was chasing him? And why had he chosen a complete stranger? A nurse gently touched Ethan's shoulder. "Sir, you should go home. We'll contact you if anything changes." Ethan nodded silently as he walked toward the parking lot. That strange feeling returned. Someone was watching him. He looked behind. Nothing. Only rain. Only darkness. Only empty parking spaces. He laughed nervously. "You're just tired," he whispered to himself. He started his car and drove home. The clock read 2:17 a.m. Ethan unlocked his apartment door. Everything looked normal. He dropped his wet jacket onto a chair, made himself a cup of coffee, and finally noticed something strange. The bedroom light was already on. His heart skipped. He was certain he had turned it off before leaving for work. Slowly, he walked toward the bedroom. His breathing became heavier. Every step felt louder. He pushed the door open. Nothing. The room was empty, but it wasn't untouched. Every drawer had been pulled open. Books lay scattered across the floor. His mattress had been sliced open. Cabinets emptied. The wardrobe destroyed. Someone had searched every corner of his apartment. But something didn't make sense. His laptop, still there. His wallet, untouched. The television, still hanging on the wall. Nothing valuable had been stolen. They weren't thieves. They were looking for something. Suddenly, Ethan remembered the key. His heart began pounding. He reached into his jacket pocket. The brass key was still there. He exhaled in relief. Whoever broke in had failed. Then, his phone rang. Unknown number. For a moment, he considered ignoring it. Instead, he answered. Silence. 5 long seconds. Then a calm voice spoke. "You have something that belongs to us." Ethan frowned. "I think you've got the wrong person." The caller laughed. A slow, cold, terrifying laugh. "You saved an old man tonight." Ethan's blood ran cold. "How do you know that?" Another pause. Then the voice whispered, "We see everything." Ethan looked around his apartment. Every shadow. "Return the key. And maybe you'll live long enough to forget this ever happened." Click. The call ended. Ethan stood completely still. His hands were shaking. How could they know? Who were they? And how had they found him so quickly? That night, he barely slept. Every tiny sound made him jump. The wind outside sounded like footsteps. Every passing car made him look through the curtains. At exactly 6:42 a.m., someone knocked on his door. 3 slow knocks. Knock, knock, knock. Ethan stayed silent. The knocking stopped. Then an envelope slid underneath the door. He waited several minutes before opening it. Inside, only one photograph. It showed him carrying the old man into the hospital. The picture had been taken only hours earlier. Someone had been following him. The entire time, written across the back in black ink were 5 chilling words. "This is your last warning." Ethan's legs felt weak. This wasn't random. Someone powerful was behind all of this. He grabbed his jacket and decided to return to the hospital. Maybe the old man was awake. Maybe he finally had answers. 20 minutes later, he arrived, but something felt wrong. Police cars surrounded the entrance. Doctors whispered nervously. 2 detectives stood outside the emergency ward. Ethan hurried inside. What happened? A nurse looked at him with frightened eyes. The patient. He disappeared. Ethan blinked. What do you mean, disappeared? He was unconscious. He couldn't even walk. The nurse lowered her voice. The security cameras went black for exactly 90 seconds. When they came back online, the room was empty. No broken windows. No alarms. No weaknesses. It was as if the old man had vanished in a thin air. One detective approached Ethan. "Sir, we need you to answer a few questions." Ethan forced himself to stay calm. "What kind of questions? Were you carrying anything the patient gave you?" For a split second, Ethan almost reached for the key in his pocket. But then, the old man's warning echoed once again. "Don't trust anyone." Ethan looked the detective in the eyes. "No, I don't know anything." The detective smiled, but it wasn't a friendly smile. It looked almost disappointed. As Ethan left the hospital, he noticed something that made his stomach drop. The detective wasn't wearing a police badge, only a black suit, and a silver ring engraved with the image of a snake. The same snake symbol, printed on the mysterious envelope. In that moment, Ethan realized the terrifying truth. The people hunting the old man had already infiltrated places no one would ever suspect. Even the people sworn to protect him might actually be the ones trying to kill him. And hidden inside his pocket, the tiny brass key suddenly felt heavier than ever, because whatever it unlocked, people were willing to murder for it. Ethan left the hospital without looking back. His heartbeat refused to slow down. One thought kept repeating in his mind. Who would he trust? Not the police. Not strangers. Maybe not even his friends. He drove aimlessly through the city until he reached an old coffee shop where he often met his best friend, Daniel. If there was one person he believed would never betray him, it was Daniel. As Ethan walked inside, Daniel immediately noticed the fear on his face. What happened to you? You look like you've seen a ghost. Ethan hesitated. The old man's warning echoed in his head. Don't trust anyone. But fear makes people desperate, and desperate people need someone to talk to. So Ethan told him everything. The injured stranger, the mysterious key, the break-in, the threatening phone call, the missing patient. Daniel listened without interrupting. When Ethan finished, Daniel smiled. You've been through a lot, but you're safe now. Those words should have brought comfort. Instead, they felt strangely rehearsed. Daniel insisted they leave immediately. My cousin owns a cabin outside the city, he said. No one will find you there. It sounded like the perfect plan, so Ethan agreed. 40 minutes later, they were driving through a deserted forest road. The rain had finally stopped. Fog rolled between the trees. The silence inside the car felt heavy. Then, Ethan noticed something. Daniel kept checking the rearview mirror. Again and again, almost as if he were waiting for someone. Is everything okay? Ethan asked. Daniel forced a smile. Yeah, just making sure we're not being followed. But Ethan wasn't convinced. His instinct screamed that something was wrong. Then his phone vibrated. Unknown number. Against his better judgment, he answered. The familiar voice whispered, You shouldn't have trusted him. Click. Ethan's blood froze. He slowly turned toward Daniel. At that exact moment, Daniel slammed on the brakes. 3 black SUVs appeared from the trees, blocking the road. Men dressed in black tactical gear stepped out. Each one wore the same silver snake ring. Daniel sighed deeply. I'm sorry, Ethan. I didn't have a choice. The words hit harder than any punch. His best friend had betrayed him. One of the masked men approached the car. Give us the key, and this ends peacefully. Ethan looked at Daniel. How long? Daniel couldn't meet his eyes. They threatened my family. I tried to protect you, but they would have killed us both. Before anyone could react, Ethan threw open the passenger door and ran. Branches slapped against his face. Mud slowed every step. Behind him, voices shouted. Flashlights cut through the darkness. A gunshot echoed through the forest. The bullet struck a tree only inches away. Ethan didn't stop. He couldn't. His lungs burned. His legs screamed. But fear pushed him forward. After several minutes, he reached an abandoned railway tunnel. Cold, dark, silent. He hid behind a broken concrete wall. Outside, footsteps grew louder. One by one, the men entered the tunnel. Their flashlights swept across the walls. Ethan held his breath. One wrong move, and it would all be over. Suddenly, a small rat darted across the tracks. One of the guards turned his flashlight. For just 1 second, the beam moved away. That was all Ethan needed. He sprinted deeper into the tunnel. The chase was back on. The tunnel opened into an abandoned subway station. Old trains sat rusting on forgotten tracks. Broken clocks still hung on the walls. The station looked frozen in time. Ethan searched desperately for another exit. Instead, he found an old locker. Its number matched the tiny engraving on the brass key. His hands trembled. Could this be why everyone wanted it? He inserted the key. It fit perfectly. The lock clicked open. Inside, there was no gold, no diamonds, no money, only 3 simple items. A worn leather notebook, a black USB flash drive, and a sealed envelope. The notebook contained names. Hundreds of names. Judges, politicians, police officers, business executives. Every page revealed another layer of corruption. The USB contained videos, secret meetings, bribes, murders. Enough evidence to destroy an empire. Ethan suddenly understood. The old man hadn't been protecting money. He had been protecting the truth. And the truth was far more valuable than any treasure. Before he could examine everything, a loud metallic sound echoed through the station. Someone had found him. Flashlights filled the darkness. The leader stepped forward, slowly removing his hood. Ethan's eyes widened. He recognized the face instantly. It wasn't a criminal. It wasn't a gangster. It was one of the detectives from the hospital. The man smiled calmly. I told you, you should have trusted the police. Then he raised his pistol. And now, you've run out of places to hide. The sound of the safety clicking off echoed through the empty station. And Ethan realized his biggest fight was only just beginning. The detective aimed his pistol directly at Ethan. The abandoned subway station fell silent. Only the sound of dripping water echoed through the darkness. Ethan tightened his grip around the flash drive. His heart pounded so loudly it almost drowned out every other sound. The detective smiled. There are two kinds of people in this world, he said. Those who know the truth, and those who survive. He extended his hand. Give me the drive. You walk away, forgetting everything. Ethan looked at the notebook, then at the USB. Thousands of innocent lives depended on what he did next. He took a slow breath, then shook his head. No. The detective's smile disappeared. So be it. He pulled the trigger. Bang! The bullet struck the concrete wall inches from Ethan's head. Without thinking, Ethan dived behind an abandoned train carriage. Gunfire exploded through the station. Concrete shattered. Glass rained onto the tracks. Every second felt like a lifetime. Hashtag the unexpected ally. Just as Ethan thought it was over, a loud explosion echoed from the station entrance. Smoke filled the tunnel. Several armed men were knocked to the ground. Out of the smoke, an old familiar voice shouted, "Run!" It was impossible. The old man was alive. Weak, injured, but alive. He had escaped the hospital before the organization could silence him forever. He threw Ethan a small backpack. Take it. Ethan caught it instinctively. Inside were several backup flash drives. The old man had anticipated betrayal. If they destroy one, they'll never destroy the truth. The detective roared in anger. Kill them both. The chase began again. The old man led Ethan through a forgotten maintenance tunnel beneath the city. Every turn was a gamble. Every sound could mean death. Behind them, footsteps grew closer. The old man suddenly stopped. His breathing became heavy. He leaned against the wall. I can't go any farther. Ethan grabbed his arm. We're almost there. The old man smiled sadly. No, my journey ends here. Before Ethan could argue, the old man pressed a folded piece of paper into his hand. Promise me, the world must know the truth. Then, he stepped into the middle of the tunnel, facing the armed men alone. Go, he shouted. Gunshots echoed through the darkness. Ethan wanted to turn back. Every part of him screamed to help, but he remembered the promise. With tears filling his eyes, he kept running. Minutes later, Ethan reached the office of Sarah Carter, an investigative journalist known for exposing corruption. He burst through the door. I don't have much time. If anything happens to me, release everything. Sarah looked at the notebook, then the videos. Her face turned pale. My God, this could destroy half the government. Ethan nodded. That's exactly why they're trying to kill me. Without wasting another second, Sarah uploaded multiple encrypted copies to news agencies around the world. Then, she pressed one final button. Publish. There was no turning back. Within hours, television channels interrupted their regular programming. Breaking news, secret recordings, hidden accounts, bribery, political corruption, organized crime. Every headline carried the same shocking story. The country watched in disbelief. Powerful officials resigned. Criminal leaders disappeared. Hundreds of arrests followed. The empire that had ruled from the shadows for decades collapsed in a single day. For the first time, justice had won. Life slowly returned to normal. Ethan found a new apartment, a new job. He tried to forget everything, but some memories never leave. One quiet evening, as the sun disappeared beyond the city skyline, someone knocked on his door. 3 slow knocks. Knock, knock, knock. Ethan opened it. No one was there, only a small black envelope. His hands trembled. Inside, a photograph, taken that very morning. It showed Ethan drinking coffee, completely unaware someone had been watching him. On the back, 6 handwritten words. Heroes never stop being hunted. No signature, no fingerprints, no clues, just silence. Ethan looked down the empty street. For a brief moment, he thought he saw someone standing in the distance, watching. Then, the figure disappeared into the crowd. Sometimes, the greatest act of courage is helping someone when everyone else walks away. Kindness can save a life, but it can also change your own forever. Ethan never planned to become a hero. He simply refused to ignore a man in need. And because of that one decision, an entire criminal empire fell. But every choice has a price. The question is, would you still help a stranger if you knew it might cost you everything? If this story kept you on the edge of your seat, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more emotional mystery stories with unforgettable endings. And tell us in the comments, what would you have done if you were Ethan? Because sometimes, one decision changes everything.